Hi, I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you.
A few nights ago, I realized I'd been playing way too much Splinter Cell. How could I tell? I was walking along outside one of my favorite grocery stores, and all I could think about was shooting out their walkway lights. Since I don't own a handgun, that'd be difficult, but still. Not long after Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow came out, we got the next installment. Chaos Theory, while still a game for the original Xbox, was a bit of a step forward as far as graphics, gadgets, and especially modification of the controls were concerned. Sam got a couple of new abilities, some new widgets, and some new people. He still gets his orders from Lambert, and Grimm's daughter is still his computer whiz. For this game, we've added William Redding, a new member of the team who helps provide information and also apparently helps Sam decide what to carry with him. Briefings before each mission are given by several people, including Redding, but it's good to see that Lambert and Grimm's daughter are still on the team. At the beginning of each level, you get a briefing from Lambert, Grimm, Redding, and a few other people as required by the mission. But for some reason, the sound levels are about a fourth of what they are during the rest of the game. So if you turn the volume up to hear the briefings, remember to turn it down again before you start the actual level, or prepare to be blasted out of your chair. After the briefing, you have a loadout. You can select from 3 different sets of weaponry: Redding's recommendation, stealth, and assault. I suggest experimenting with all 3 at various times to see what works best for you. Doing a mission with the different loadout is one of the things that helps boost the game's replay value. Several things have changed, not all for the better. First, the night vision is horrible. Not only is the contrast overdone, you have this weird circle around it that cuts off the corners of the screen and limits your field of view. The thermal vision is a lot less sharp too. We've added what's called EM vision, a filter that lets you see electromagnetic emanations. It's only useful once or twice in the game, and it seems to me those things could have been done just as easily some other way. Interactions have changed quite a bit. One of the first that you come to is about entering and exiting crawl spaces. That's useful in a lot of instances. We also have done away with the back to the wall command. Now, when Sam comes to a tight space, he's smart enough to do it automatically. Another involves doors. Before, if you wanted to open a door stealthily, you had to do the interaction while holding one of the sticks and moving it, and you were never quite sure if you were doing it right. Now, open door stealth is one of the options. Another option is bash door. This is a very handy one, especially if your optic cable shows you there's a bad guy standing on the other side of the door. Bash it and it knocks him out. Not bad. You also have something called an EEV, which is a device that scans containers and tells you about them. Basically, as you go along, you get the feeling it's a barcode scanner. And really, it doesn't tell you anything about the containers you scan. It tells Lambert and he tells you. But it can also scan almost anything electronic and tell you what you can or can't do with it remotely. One of the handiest things is being able to hack a computer remotely with it. The only problem is you have to have line of sight to the actual computer box, not just the monitor. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Them's the breaks. One thing I really like, and it's about time, the sticky camera and the diversion camera have been merged. You now only have sticky cameras, but they have the ability to make distracting noises and emit knockout gases. Unfortunately, the noise is a lot less useful than it was in the previous games. In those, the camera made a loud whistling noise. Now it makes a strange little clicking noise like one of those cricket toys we used to have when we were kids. Why? The whistle was much more effective and more fun. This noise is just dumb. The scope on your SC-20K rifle has lost its ability to zoom in and out. You now have one zoom level, and if you don't like it, tough. But you've acquired several attachments for the rifle in exchange. The most common is the launcher attachment. This is what fires your sticky shockers, airfoil rounds, and all that stuff. Then there's the foregrip attachment, which is supposed to stabilize your aim. There's also a shotgun attachment that really isn't too useful. You can switch these on the fly, but you'll have to study the game's manual to figure out how, and even then you may not find it. There's no tutorial for the new controls, you're just thrown into it. Clicking the left stick with your rifle equipped switches the rifle to the other shoulder, which is occasionally useful, but not really. A much better improvement, the ring airfoil rounds actually knock people out now, headshot or not. It's only effective up to a certain distance, but that's to be expected. It works right. That's something new and different. The pistol has a secondary fire function now. It's equipped with something called an OCP, pointed at something electrical like a light or a security camera, and it'll disable the item for a short time. So that means you can shoot a light out, or you can use your pistol to temporarily turn it off. The big advantage to this is, no matter how silenced it is, the pistol makes noise, and so does the breaking of the light. With this gadget, the light just goes off and the bad guys stand there wondering why. Then it comes back on, hopefully after you've snuck past them. It's a nice addition. It also has the advantage of letting you jam cameras without having to switch weapons. The only big disadvantage is that after you use it, it takes up to 10 seconds to recharge before you can use it again. But the gameplay makes provision for that, so it's not a big deal unless you miss your target. The manual and the promo materials really played up two of Sam's new abilities. One is hanging off a ledge, reaching up to grab an enemy and pulling him over the side. I've been through this game 4 times, and as far as I can tell, you get to do this precisely once. Big deal. Another is, when he's on a pipe or beam on the ceiling, if a bad guy walks below him, he can reach down and grab the guy by the neck and take him out. I found 4 places where I could do this, but even then, it's not the huge improvement that the developers would have you think. Still, see how many places you can find to use it. If you find more than I did, tell me. I'd really like to know. Ditto for the ledge thing. If you can find other places to use it, let me know. Medkits have been changed again as well. You still can't carry them anymore, they're still on a wall somewhere, and you still can use them more than once. But in the second game, we had this phony baloney scene of Sam standing in front of the kit, wrapping a bandage around his arm, and that restores his health. Yeah, right! Now it's much more believable. He opens the cabinet, takes out a little bottle, takes a swig of it, and that restores his health. Oh yeah, that's much less phony baloney. They should have stuck with the first game's method. Don't show me anything, don't worry about the mechanics of it, just say, use medkit, watch the health meter go back up, and get on with the game. But at least you still have an actual health meter that tells you something. By the time we get to Double Agent, that'll be gone too, and the system there sucks balls. But I digress. If you saw the first 2 games, you saw Sam grab a character by the throat, hold a pistol to his head, and do whatever he had to do. Now Sam is apparently using a knife. But look at this. What's the deal with the hand? What the hell is he doing? I'm a middle-aged, overweight nerd, and I could probably have a chance of getting out of this. You also have a choice of what to do with one of these guys after you've grabbed him. Pull the left trigger and you'll knock him out, though not by hitting him over the head like before. Now, Sam just tightens his arm on the guy's throat and the guy falls unconscious. I don't get it. If you're feeling mean, pull the right trigger and Sam will ram the knife into the guy's back and kill him. This game also introduces a scoring system. At the end of each mission, you're evaluated on how well you did. How many enemies you killed, how many you knocked out, how many times you were spotted, how many alarms you triggered, that sort of thing. May I just say, this rating system sucks! The only way to get 100% is by never killing any of the bad guys. Where the hell is the fun in that? When you pull the guy over the ledge, you throw him 21,840 stories down to the bottom of the lighthouse. So if you use this new ability, you lose points for killing him. I played through the level again, making sure he was the only one I killed just to be sure, and I did indeed lose points for doing it. What is that all about? It's stupid. It's unnecessary. It's well worth ignoring. Now, there are walkthroughs on GameFAQs and places like that, and they can tell you how to get through the whole thing and get 100% on each level. Screw that! Yes, this is still stealth action. But there are battles too, and if you deprive yourself of the chance to blast a few bad guys during them, you've taken away a big part of the fun factor. My advice is to ignore the rating crap and play it as if you were playing Pandora Tomorrow. In other words, if you have a choice between a lethal and non-lethal attack, give yourself that choice. Don't let some collection of pinhead designers take it away from you. Another good change is a noise meter. A marker on this scale shows you the level of the background noise, and as long as the noise you make stays below that, the bad guys won't hear you. It's a nice addition if you can remember to check it before you make a major move. One really big good change. You can save whenever you want. You have 6 save slots and you can use all of them. I like this in part because it means I can save as I go, and if I screw up I don't have to go clear back to some obscure checkpoint that happened half an hour ago. And partly I like it because it means I can go back to points of interest and try different ways of doing things. This is by far the best improvement. That's about all I can think of in terms of general changes, so let's move on. The story opens in the Far East, where a Chinese warship with a North Korean escort has boarded a Japanese ship for reasons unknown. Turns out the two nations are forming a blockade against Japanese shipping, claiming their own national security as justification. In Pandora Tomorrow, there were hints about Japan forming what they called an ISDF, which stands for Information Self-Defense Force. We aren't sure yet what that is, but at least officially, the Chinese and North Koreans believe it's a violation of the strict law against rearming Japan that was part of the treaty ending World War II. Japan claims it's not armament in any form, merely self-defense in case of information or computer-based attacks. And the war of rhetoric is on, except that China just upped the stakes with their blockade. So the US, based on its mutual defense treaty with Japan, is sending its newest and most electronically capable warship, the USS Walsh, to the South China Sea to be on hand in case the Japanese need military help. In the first Splinter Cell game, we met Philip Mass, a computer genius with no conscience who didn't care how many people suffered as a result of his actions as long as he got lots of money. He developed what have come to be called the Mass kernels, a set of algorithms that can do just about anything but contact God. After Sam took down Mass, a team of UN experts was appointed to study the Mass kernels and find out everything there is to know about them. Sam's first mission is to rescue one of those computer experts, a man named Morgenholt. This guy has been kidnapped by a Peruvian group calling itself the People's Voice. Their leader is one Hugo Lacerda, a guy who believes that information warfare is the way of the future for revolutionaries. Morgenholt was part of the team working on the Mass kernels. The problem here is that if Lacerda can get information about Mass's work out of Morgenholt, he could use it against anybody he wants to. So we have to get Morgenholt out if he's still alive, or at least remove or destroy any information he had to give up to Lacerda. And if Sam gets the chance to take out Lacerda while he's at it, so much the better. We get additional briefings from the captain of the ship that's going to take us to the Peruvian coast, where we'll go after Morgenholt, and from Sam's old friend Douglas Shetland. Doug says his company was doing the security for Morgenholt and his team, but whoever took the guy knew exactly what they were doing, and Doug lost 3 good men in the grab. Needless to say, he's pissed. He wants in on the rescue and will help however he can. The first question that comes up is, what does this have to do with the Chinese blockade and the Japanese ISDF? As far as we can tell, nothing. But bear in mind, this is Tom Clancy. He likes to lay seemingly random threads all over the floor, wandering off in all directions, and then with a snap of his fingers bring them together into a perfect tapestry. Don't be surprised if that happens again here. The mission requires Sam to take a Zodiac boat to the coast, then infiltrate an old lighthouse complex where Lacerda and his men have established a base. The primary goal is to find Morgenholt, get him out if he's still alive, and recover any information Lacerda may have tortured out of him. There are some natural caverns and caves below the lighthouse, so that's your way in. At the end of the mission, a helicopter will come and extract you from the top of the lighthouse. At various points around this compound, there are generators providing power for the lights. You can just switch one off, or you have the option to pierce, which will disable it permanently. The generators also respond to your pistol's OCP. I pointed mine at the generator in a little area, pulled the left trigger, and watched as the generator stopped and the lights went off. About 10 seconds later, the generator came back on. These are gas-powered generators, you can tell by the sound, so how a gasoline engine restarted itself is anybody's guess. Next time there's a Y2K scare, we should all get that brand of generator just in case. You make your way through some of these caves and you're introduced to the first of several mini-games that you'll encounter. Sam hears the bad guys firing automatic weapons and tells Lambert those aren't your typical Revolutionary Fair weapons. Usually, guys like this are using Kalashnikovs or AK-47s for those of us who can't pronounce Kalashnikov. These sound much more sophisticated, so Lambert tells Sam to investigate. Once inside the underground part of the compound, Lambert tells Sam to scan a crate of weapons that he comes across and see if they can identify it. The barcode identifies it as one of a lot of 5 crates, so he asks Sam to see if he can find and scan the other 4. It's not critical, and if you don't find all 5 of them, it won't kill the mission or anything like that. It'll lower your score at the end of the mission, but we've already decided the scoring thing is a wagon load of crap, so that doesn't matter. Still, it's a nice little extra. The crates have a very distinctive shape, so they're easy to spot, but the last one is in a fairly out-of-the-way place, so if you want to find all of them, you have to search the place a little more thoroughly than you might otherwise. Most of the levels have some kind of mini-game like this, or optional objective, as they like to call it. Unlike some mini-games I've seen, these are pretty simple, usually to your benefit in terms of exploring your environment, and they're small and simple enough that they don't distract from the main story. Nicely done. You move through these tunnels, taking out bad guys one way or another as you go, and you hear screaming coupled with electrical crackling. This is not good. As you get closer, you hear the bad guys talking. One insists Morgenhold is already dead, but the other one is having too much fun to quit. Screw the game scoring, these guys need to die. Now you need to try and find out if he gave him any information before he died. That means finding Lacerda. You make your way to a courtyard where some tents are set up, and this gives you a chance to use another new trick, cutting through fabric without the bad guys hearing. You grab one of these guys and ask him about Lacerda. He tells you Lacerda left on a boat hours ago. Well, crap. But Grimm has picked up a wireless computer link from somewhere nearby, so if you find that computer and hack it, she can grab any info they have from it, then wipe it. It's not hard to find, and now it's time to get to the lighthouse for extraction. At the base of it, you hear a guy on a radio talking to Maria Narcissa.
Maria Narcissa.
You're not trying to set me up on another blind date, I hope.
The Maria Narcissa is a boat.
So was the last girl you set me up with.
Fisher.
Sorry.
From there, you head up the stairs to the top where you find a guard. If you time it right, you can get out onto the ledge of the lighthouse and do the yank him over the ledge trick. If not, just shoot him. Call extraction and the mission is done. Based on information from the computer, you've learned that Lacerda has been wheeling and dealing with the weapons, getting them from some other source and using them to pay off debts. So you have to go catch up with him on the boat and find out who his supplier is. What's the score for your mission? Who cares? You're off to the Maria Narcissa to track down Lacerda. The captain of the Walsh tells you they'll drop you in the ocean in an inflatable in front of the ship, and you can get on it from the bow. Yeah. This big honking cargo ship is bearing down on your little dinghy, and all you have to do is climb up it. Well, no. When the mission starts, Sam already did that and he's on the bow of the ship. Hey, for all I know, he jumped with his $6 million legs. I don't care. On with the mission. As quick as the mission begins, you get this exchange.
We just pulled up Celestinia's last dry dock report for the Maria Narcissa. They have a newly installed central alarm system.
Don't tell me. 3 alarms and the mission is over?
Of course not. This is no video game, Fisher. But you don't want the whole place alerted to your presence. Keep it under control.
Don't you love it? I always appreciate it when the game people can make fun of themselves. So you quietly make your way past several bad guys and head toward the forward holds. If you grab the first guy and interrogate him, he'll tell you that Lacerda has a couple of armed mercenaries guarding him. That's good to know. It's also not surprising since the guy obviously has a high opinion of himself. Your first task is to find a crate of Lacerda's and scan the bill of lading to see who's supplying him with weapons and stuff. Naturally, the hold where you're going to find that crate is flooded, so you have to activate an auxiliary pump before you can get in. Here's your first chance to use that grab from the pipe trick. Check this out. Nifty, huh? Actually, if you use your noisemaker to get the second guy's attention, you can do it twice in this room. Your noisemaker has changed yet again. First it was a whistle, then some goofy clicking. Now you don't hear anything unless you turn your volume way up. Then it's this teeny little whistle. But the bad guys hear it, and I guess that's what counts. Hey, just go with it. Anyway, you also find another crate of those weapons that you were scanning back at the lighthouse. Redding comes on the line and tells you don't bother scanning these, but put tracking devices on them. That way we can find out who Lacerda's selling them to. Isn't it nice that Sam just happens to have tracking devices in his bag of tricks?
Isn't that convenient?
Anyway, once you find the crate and scan it, Grim tells you that you still need to find the transit ledger for the crate so they can trace it clear back to its source. Next stop, the ship's office. But that's going to take you through the engine room, and there's a nice heavy gas smell in there. The fumes are thick enough that you don't dare fire a shot or the whole room will explode, so you can't even shoot out the lights. But there's a bigger problem. You can't expect the sub-epsilon goons in the room to realize that, so if they spot you, they'll probably start shooting and blow all of you to hell. So you can't be seen either. This is going to be tricky in a Splinter Cell game. Who'd have thunk it? Fortunately, you can still use your OCP to kill the lights temporarily. This is one of those places where you can get through it several ways. I've done it 3 different ways with equal success. So save just as you enter the room, then experiment and have some fun. Once you're through there, you'll need to find a way to neutralize a couple of guys in the ship's office. After that, you can get the transit ledger either by searching a cabinet or by accessing the computer. Now it's time for Lacerda. Sam guesses the captain will know where he is, so you make your way to the bridge and interrogate the captain. This guy really doesn't like Lacerda, so he's more than happy to tell you what you want to know. Lacerda was bitching about his own quarters, so the captain put him up in his own cabin just to shut him up. One thing I should mention, after you do the main interrogation, keep going. You'll have the interrogate prompt until you dispose of whoever you're holding, and sometimes a second or third bump will either reveal more information or give you something delightful like this.
Leave me his corpse so I can feed it to the rats.
Did I mention that this guy really doesn't like Lacerda? Getting to the captain's cabin isn't too hard, and you hear Lacerda talking to his 2 goons. You can take him out however you like and then pop him. One nice thing about that hokey scoring system, if Lambert tells you to kill somebody, they don't count against your score. So if you're concerned about that sort of thing, find non-lethal ways to take out the mercenaries, then shoot Lacerda as vigorously as you like. You won't lose brownie points for it. So now it's time to head for extraction. You're still looking for weapons crates to put tracking devices on. That's our minigame for this level. It'll take a little exploring and working past more bad guys to find the last 2, but it's fun to figure it out. Then you head to a launch at the back of the boat, and you're done. Between the bill of lading and the transit ledger, Grim has learned that somebody's using a bogus account of the bank in Panama to bankroll Lacerda's weapons purchases and other illegal activities. Grim has tried to hack the bank, but it looks like they physically yanked the hard drives out of their computers at night and locked them up in the vault. So Sam is going to have to become a bank robber. They can't let it be known that they're after information on the hard drives. Don't you just love politics? So Sam is going to have to grab a pile of bearer bonds belonging to the French government to cover up what he's really doing. The vault is some top-of-the-line model, so Lambert's recruited a professional safecracker to help Sam figure out how to crack it. This guy, Thomas the Turtle Standish, is a wonderful character. It's too bad we couldn't hear more of him, but he's a kick to listen to, from his accent right down to his calling Redding Willie. He tells Sam that Willie has put some goodies in a safe deposit box for Sam, so it's time for Sam to break into the bank. Redding tells Sam that there's some good news about this bank. Sam's been there before. Back in 1989, Sam was part of a CIA raid on this bank, looking for money that Noriega had stashed away. The bad news is, they've upgraded security big time. So it's still going to be a booger to deal with, but at least Sam should be familiar with the basic layout. There's a lot of humor in this game.
Hey, Emilio, did you see these new motion sensing lights? No. What do? When they detect movement, the light turns on. That's amazing. Like magic.
I think I'm going to get one of those from my garage. Imagine that. You pull up in your car at night, and the driveway lights up automatically.
Ha! You're crazy. This is high-tech stuff, Emilio. It probably costs thousands of dollars.
See, you're probably right. I could never afford it.
You can get past them several ways. One is to go more or less straight ahead and hit the master switch that turns off all the outside lights, then slip past the guards while they're trying to figure out what happened. Another is to slip around the other side of the courtyard and turn the sprinklers on. That's just two. Part of the appeal of the Splinter Cell games is the ability to accomplish a task several ways. Again, replay value is high and partly for that reason. Another running gag in this game is the age-based banter between Sam and Grim.
Fisher, I just synced your OPSAT with intelligence on the bank that you and your team gathered back in '89.
The memories.
Yeah, judging from your report, sounds like it was quite a vacation.
It was, actually. I spent most of the rest of that year sleeping in a ditch on the road between Baghdad and Kuwait.
Oh well, if it's any consolation, I had a bad year that year too.
What? You weren't working for the government during the Gulf War?
No, I was in 10th grade.
Oh, right. Yuck.
Worse, Sam. That shut down the magnetic locks on the windows. Hey, wait a minute. Power spike. The lobby. It looks like a laser grid just came online.
Lasers. Lasers are so...
90s?
I was going to say 70s. Can you please stop making me feel old?
Got bad news for you, Sam. You are old.
This level introduces us to a lot of new things. One is hacking. You can hack computers and keypads to get at restricted materials. The minigame in this level is uploading a fake email to 8 different computers. The idea is to make it look like an inside job. But to do this, you need to gain security access to each computer. That involves hacking it. Hacking is fun. Your OPSAT does most of it for you, but whenever it lights up a number, you have to lock it in. It works for keypads too, so you don't have to go hunting for data sticks and door codes anymore. Even better, you can hack some of the computers remotely using your EEV. That's a blast. You have to access others directly, and you don't know in advance which ones are which. It's diverse and interesting, and there's no particular order that you have to do them, so you can be as creative as your little heart desires. Once you get inside, you'll start looking for 3 access buttons that'll open the outer part of the vault. These are located in various offices, but your map shows you where they are. Sort of. Did I forget to talk about the map? The best word I can think of for it is weird. It's a sort of wireframe mock-up of the place you're in, all in green with big red dots where your objectives are. Where you're at is white instead of green, but if you pull the triggers you can move the white part to either the next area or the previous one. So if you bump a trigger or two, there's no way to tell where you were when you first pulled up the map. Its usefulness is limited, but it's better than nothing. Barely. Anyway, there are a couple of rooms on your path that have laser grids in them. Grim is amazed at the number of lasers in this place, but Sam sees a guard walking through the beams with no trouble. Grim suggests he's wearing a beacon of some kind that switches the lasers off as he passes, and tells Sam to get close to the guy and stay in his electronic shadow. As if he's not going to spot you creeping along behind him? Just grab him, knock him out, and carry him. It's a lot easier and faster. There's a second guard with one of these transponder things, but he's easy enough to deal with. Now it's on to the security office, where you can do several things. One is, you can delete the security camera files. Now, even if you got caught on camera somewhere along the way, they won't have a record of it. You can also turn the camera system off altogether so you don't have to worry about them anymore. I like it! The security office has one of the access buttons in it. Just beyond that is an office that has the second one. Next, you have a choice. You can backtrack through the bank and make your way through a retinal scanner, or you can go out the window and go down into another courtyard to proceed. There's a guard there, but at least you don't have to worry about the cameras anymore. Getting into the last office is a little tricky. Basically, you have to wait for one of the guards inside the next door to fix the keypad, or you won't be able to get through the door. Once you've hit that access button, the security door leading to the vaults opens. You'll need to deal with the guards in the office next to it, but that's not too difficult. You go into the small vault and retrieve some stuff that Redding left you in a safe deposit box, then move on down to the main vault. Now it's time for Turtle to walk you through using his gadgets. The coolest dingfod is called a telemetric pick. The vault is supposed to require 2 people to open because it has 2 locks on opposite sides of the room that have to be operated at the same time. The telemetric pick follows your movements as you pick one of the locks and mimics them on the other one. In other words, it's a radio-operated way to pick 2 locks at once.
You guys use some cool toys.
Yeah. Once you've done that, you place some charges on the vault door and blow it. If you're not careful, as you go in, you'll trigger an alarm. But it's possible to do this whole next part without alerting anybody. The level proceeds differently depending on whether you do or not, which is really cool. Inside the vault, you access a computer that opens the cage where the hard drives and the bearer bonds are, lets you turn the lights off, lets you turn the sprinklers on, and a bunch of other stuff. It's a very handy computer. You pick up the bonds, then you have this exchange.
Good job, Fisher. Now the whole mission will look like a robbery. They'll never know why we were here.
Lambert, now that I'm holding $50 million, I think we need to talk about that raise again.
25 cents an hour and not a penny more.
Deal.
It does make you wonder who ended up with all that money, and if Sam decided to keep a few of the bonds for himself and not tell anybody. Nah, he's a lot more ethical than that. Anyway, there's a chance of setting off the alarm as you exit the vault, so just in case, I recommend turning the sprinklers on. Why? Because as you're making your way out of the vault, some guards might come after you. But the floor is ankle deep in water, so a well-placed sticky shocker will take care of them. You make your way past whatever guards remain and extract at the same place you came in. While Grim was poking around the bank's computers, she came across a name she recognized, Zerkazy. He's another computer geek who was working with Morgenholt on the mass kernels, and he seems to have a lot of dealings with this bank, a bank that we've now established is heavily involved in terrorist activities and funding. So it's time to track him down and ask him what his deal is. He actually seems to be behind some of the nasty stuff that's going on. But as you're on your way to New York, the city gets hit with an electronic attack that completely blacks it out. That's going to make your job harder. Zerkazy has a penthouse in a posh building in the garment district. You have to infiltrate it by zipline from the roof of a building across the street. Unfortunately, because of the blackout, you have to get past the National Guard before you can get into that building. They're good guys, of course, so you have to be as nice to them as possible. While we're dealing with the first group of guardsmen, we encounter one of the carryover glitches from the first 2 games, foes that can see in the dark. Watch this.
Nothing here. Never hurts to check.
You saw that. I didn't make any noise. I was in pitch darkness in a split jump about 8 feet off the ground, and they didn't even respond to me shooting the sticky camera. They shot right at me after I triggered the gas that knocked that guy out. How did they do that? Just keep telling yourself it's not a bug, it's a feature. It won't help, but keep telling yourself that anyway. Why? Because it's cheaper than throwing your controller through the TV screen. Inside the building, you come upon a couple of guys trying to fix the elevator. You have 2 options here. You can wait for one of them to declare the elevator fixed, then neutralize them and take the elevator. Or you can do this.
What's the status on that elevator?
I'll have it running in a sec.
Well, speed it up. We need to get some more equipment up to the roof.
I'm going as fast as I can.
If you save just before or after you go into the building, you can try it both ways just for the hell of it. There's a helicopter on the roof, and it's making lots of nice noise to cover the sound of you shooting lights out. Once again, there are several ways to get past the National Guard guys up here. Then off you go.
Fisher, satellite shows you've reached Narcissa's building. County Clerk's office has construction permits on file for the floors below the penthouse and in the neighboring structure.
Any plans or blueprints on file?
I'll have Grimm look into it with this blackout.
I understand. See if I can dig up some plans down here.
Good idea.
There's a lot of construction going on. Grimm has accessed permits and such and learned that he's also doing some major construction on the building next door. Now we want to know why. Somewhere along here, the name Dvorak comes up. Sam reasons that Zerkezi is a geek, not a terrorist, so maybe this Dvorak guy is pulling strings and doing the actual terrorist stuff. Time to find him. But first, we have to get past some obviously professional mercenary guards. You grab one of them and interrogate him, and he tells you that he works for Displace International doing VIP protection on Zerkezi. Hold on. Displace is Doug Shetland's company. Is Sam's old friend involved in this? Time to find out. The rest of this level is really hard to describe because it's really hard to figure out what's going on. The mini-game is pretty straightforward. Zerkezi has some security cameras that project an infrared beam so they can see in the dark, and Redding wants Sam to tap them so Third Echelon can keep an eye on Zerkezi. So you need to find all 6 cameras and put taps on them without being detected. Fortunately, you can see the infrared beam in your night vision, so getting past the cameras is pretty easy. But the business with Dvorak is just confusing. You access several computers and find out that Zerkezi has a panic room behind a closet off one of his rooms. Between the computer in there and his main computer in what is, I guess, the living room, you find out that Dvorak is in the next building. If you interrogate a few of the displaced guards, you learn that Zerkezi isn't home at the moment, so you may as well go find and interrogate Dvorak. More guards, of course, but one of them gives you an opportunity to use your new bash door option.
Holy crap! Guess I'm a little jumpy.
Then you hack a keypad and you meet Dvorak. Sort of.
You must be Dvorak.
Well, Dvorak, huh? I had thought this area was, well, off limits.
You're not Dvorak.
Well, since we're being blunt, well, no.
Then who are you?
Such a rush you're in. Fancy some tea?
Lambert, something weird is happening.
I'll say.
What do I do?
The old man seems harmless. Indulge him. See if he knows anything.
Reminds me of poor old Jiggers. Oh, Jiggers. We hardly know you.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Oh, well, one might ask you the same.
I'm looking for a man named Dvorak.
Ah, Dvorak, yes! Well, you're not going to find one. This way! Yes, here we are then. This is Dvorak.
Jesus. I think I just figured out why you couldn't hack in here, Grimm.
Yeah, no kidding.
What the hell do I do now?
Hold on while I find a slide rule.
See what the old man knows, Fisher.
Okay. If this is Dvorak, who are you?
I am Dvorak's keeper. Thank you most kindly for asking.
Yes, Dvorak is actually a computer that takes up 2 rooms because it's built around some massive vacuum tubes and uses punch cards. You have another mini-game. You have to restart the towers in the right sequence, hitting the switches on them just as the tubes light up. If you do it wrong, you have to start over. The old man describes what Dvorak is, and Grim understands it, but I sure didn't, even after she explained it. Anyway, it's on to extraction. Your next mission is to infiltrate Displace International's headquarters. One of the guards you interrogated told you that a guy named Milan Nedic is in charge of all VIP protection, and it looks like he or someone else high up in Displace is using Zerkezi, Dvorak, and a lot of other stuff to try and start a world war. Your job is to find out if Nedic is acting alone, or if Sam's friend is involved as well. Somehow, they managed to drop you on Displace's roof. There's a lot of suspicious activity surrounding Doug's company. They're running full tilt even with the citywide blackout. They're investing heavily in local infrastructure as if they're expecting a major terrorist event or something similar. And they're negotiating with the mayor of New York, probably to provide extra security for the city, supplementing the National Guard. Everything points to the idea that this Nedic character, whoever he is, wants to start a war so Displace can grab power and make a fortune. We know Zerkezi is working with Nedic and was the one who ordered the kidnapping of Morgenholt. The question now is, how far up the Displace ladder does the corruption go? It seems to go as far as a minor glitch in the program. Check this out. Notice the camera's back and forth motion. The really weird part is, the whole time I was recording this, I wasn't touching the controller at all. It was sitting on the table. Okay, I've seen enough of this. I'm getting carsick. You need to get into the place and access their main server to find out where Zerkezi is and how he's connected to this whole thing. You get in by shutting down a ventilation fan and rappelling into the air ducts. From there, you have to get a server algorithm off some guy's laptop. Get to the server room and access it, and then hopefully find out who Nedic is. Once you're in, you find out what your minigame is. Grim has put a little backdoor program on your OPSAT and wants you to upload it to Displace's 3 main network servers so she can poke around. Naturally, that involves finding them. So off you go. We're out of time for this week, so check back next week and we'll wrap this whole thing up. Until then, I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you. At the end of the mission,
about that,
a helicopter will... At the end of the mission, a helicopter will... Why am I having trouble with that word? The barcode identified as...
I love how you stumble over typical and identifies, but not Kalashnikov.
Tell me about it.